Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of True Conservative Republican Radio. I'm the host, Ghost. Didn't mean to rhyme, of course, and once again, I thank you very much for tuning in with me. Yesterday's show, if you tuned in with us, we were talking about the primaries, both on the left and the right of the persuasion. We were talking about who's your candidate and why, and we had a whole bunch of people call in and give us their political viewpoints and what they feel is the top important issue that's going to motivate them to go out and vote. And we had a great discussion. I'd like to thank everybody who tuned in. We're having great numbers. I just got another 50 or 60 emails yesterday. A lot of them embracing the program, a lot of people hating, a lot of people on the left hating, of course, sending me all kinds of insults, four-letter words, and that sort of thing, but that's okay. It's all good. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about the presidency. We're going to be looking back at the presidency of George W. Bush, and I was going to discuss why I believe he's going to go down as one of the greatest American presidents in American history. Yeah, he's a great president. He's basically someone who I look for as a great example for future presidents, and I'd like to hear everybody's viewpoint on it. I know that there's a lot of people who appreciate our great president, and there's a lot of people who don't. So give us a call, let us know what you feel, and let us know why. 646-652-4869 is the number to call. Give me a call right now. Like I said, we're looking back at the presidency of George W. Bush. And let me tell you something about this man. This is a man that has instilled integrity back in the White House, unlike previous presidents I might mention, who turned the Oval Office into the Oral Office. But, this is a man that is not only is he a great president based on instilling integrity back in the White House, this is a man who's also redefined the political theoretical landscape for United States foreign policy. Now, you see, prior to George W. Bush, we had the pacifist approach to the war on terror. Bill Clinton basically had the idea that if we just ignore them and they'll go away, and obviously that just emboldened the terrorists. It just emboldened the terrorists into believing that if they implement as much terror as they possibly can in the United States, that somehow that was going to dictate our foreign policy. That we were just going to tuck tail and run out of the Middle East because they're just committing all this terrorism. And prior to Clinton, we had a Machiavellian realist approach, basically meaning, the ends justify the means. We had a Machiavellian realist approach to our foreign policy before Clinton. We did a lot of deals with a lot of unscrupulous characters in the international community. There's a lot of things in United States foreign policy history that I don't really agree with, but we had to do it just so we can maintain peace and stability in our own homeland out here. And of course, people in the left, these left-wing, long-hair liberal hippies, they come in and they'll like to play what I like to call cafeteria history. They like to pick and choose moments in time when we were making deals with unscrupulous regimes and conducting business with people that I particularly don't care for, tyrants, dictators, because we had this Machiavellian realist approach to foreign policy. But now, since George W. Bush took office, he redefined the theoretical approach. We're no longer taking the pacifist approach like old Bill Clinton did. We're not conducting our foreign policy based on a Machiavellian realist approach, no. He's redefined it into a Hobbesian realist approach. And I thank him for it. Instead of going and trying to hold hands with the terrorists and trying to sing Kumbaya, he basically said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go out there and we're going to sow the seeds of democracy in a part of the world that has been bombarded with Islamic radicals. You have a handful of tyrants out in this particular region of the world that are suppressing masses of people with Islamic radicalism. I mean, the day these people are born, they're indoctrinated with radical versions of the Quran, and they refashion their whole outlook on life into believing that if they blow themselves up and as many Westerners as possible, that somehow they're going to get 72 virgins and religious significance in the afterlife. And of course you're going to have liberals. There are always going to be liberals that are going to state, well, you know what, we could have negotiated with them. As a matter of fact, we've got a liberal right now, Barack Hussein Obama, who wants to open a dialogue with one of the countries that are responsible for 75% of the world's terror. And it's a shame that we're losing George W. Bush, because I'm not too sure what the future holds. You've got a lot of different ideologies in both the right and the left of the persuasion. But the future definitely looks unstable, if at best. Anyway, give us a call right now, 646-652-4869. We're talking about the presidency of George W. Bush, how he's instilled integrity into the White House, unlike previous presidents that turned the Oval Office into the Oral Office, made a mockery of our president, that sort of thing. But anyway, give me a call right now. I'm of the persuasion that George W. Bush is the greatest president in American history. I mean, nobody has had so much on his plate and has dealt with it like this man right here. And like I was stating previous, he has redefined the political platform, or the political theoretical platform, for our foreign policy. And as you can see, I'm looking in the chat here. We've got, obviously, a whole bunch of left-wing, long-hair, liberal, bedwetting hippies in here trying to agitate, and that's typical. That's typical of the liberals. I mean, they've done their best to try to desecrate the great name of George W. Bush, and they haven't done it. They haven't done it. You see, you have a lot of people in here, spewing off the methods of agitation, which is obviously a method utilized and invented by the communists, resorting to logical fallacies, and instead of actually talking about the issues. And it's a shame that the left of the persuasion has to resort to such ridiculous nonsense. I mean, you're seeing them kill each other in the damn Democratic nominations here. I mean, and this is what the left is all about. This is what it's all about. They want to utilize the methods of agitation so that they can spew their propaganda for as much as possible. They don't care who they hurt. They don't care at what cost. They don't care. 646-652-4869. Give me a call. Let me know why you think or don't think George W. Bush is a great president. Tell me why. And I guarantee you, if we have any people from the left of the political persuasion, you're going to have them spewing off all kinds of nonsense. They're not going to try to facilitate any other debate. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And once again, we got more people in here trying to utilize the method of agitation. Look at this. Trying to utilize the method of agitation. They don't even want to discuss the issues. And you see, that's what I want. I mean, that's what people and true conservatives, Republicans, that's what we want. We want to facilitate a debate here. We don't want to utilize methods of agitation and name-calling like the liberals. I mean, look at what the liberals are doing now, all right? Look at what they're doing to each other. If you don't vote for Barack Obama, you're a racist grand dragon. If you don't vote for Hillary Clinton, you're a damn misogynist, sexist pig. And this is exactly the kinds of methods of agitation that were utilized by the communists. And they've utilized it through the entire tenure of George W. Bush. I mean, you got a movement called the 9/11 Truth Movement. And I'm not too sure if people are aware of this. I was trying to mention this to a caller last evening. He didn't really have any idea what I was talking about. But let me enlighten those who don't know what the 9/11 Truth Movement is. The 9/11 Truth Movement is basically a whole segment of long-haired liberal bedwetting hippies that take the issue of 9/11 and spin it to the point where they basically stipulate that George W. Bush was responsible for 9/11. They even make more of an assumption that that somehow George W. Bush put bombs in the building, and that they were remote controlling the airplanes into the building, and other such nonsense. But what these left-wing, long-haired conspiracy theorist nut jobs don't understand is they're being used like lab rats. They're lab rats. And the reason I state this is because there's only a handful of people that are basically leading this little 9/11 Truth Movement. You know, some nut job called Alex Jones, a couple of professors that are probably dropped too much acid in the 70s and 60s. It's basically these people that are capitalizing off of this sensationalist conspiracy theory garbage. And what these people don't understand is that the people that actually give this credence, any kind of credibility to the 9/11 Truth Movement, they're being utilized as lab rats for basically capitalist gain. Capitalist gain. And I think it's utterly irresponsible for those people that are trying to give credence to this hysterical ideology, this ridiculous conspiracy theory. Anyway, give me a call right now, 646-652-4869. Give me a call right now. If you're a conservative Republican, call me up. If you're a left-wing liberal nut job, give me a call. I want to know. I want to know what you feel about George W. Bush. Was he a positive direction for America? Was he a negative direction for America? And why? Why? That's all I want. Why? Anyway, I'm looking at the chat here, seeing a lot of familiar faces. How you doing? How you folks doing in the chat room? We've got a lot of people in here trying to become a little agitators, obviously spreading slanderous, treasonous lies against our president. And I'm used to that. I patronize these little chat communities, little internet voice chat communities, and you've got every kind of nut job and their mama in these chat rooms spewing off all kinds of rhetoric. I wouldn't be surprised if most of those people that are in these chat rooms are being paid by the DNC. I would not be surprised, because you've got a humongous congregation of these people that are online spewing off just slanderous lies about our great president. And it's just absolutely disgusting that they can make these insinuations. One thing I hear all the time is that our rights are being taken away. Our rights are being taken away. Our phones are being tapped, and we can't check out books from the library and other such nonsense. And I always tell these people, well, you know what? You're on the chat room right now. You're spewing off all kinds of slanderous lies against our president. You're basically spitting on our troops right now. That's what you're doing. You're spitting on our troops. All you people that are out there spreading these slanderous lies about our president, you're basically spitting on our troops that are dying for your freedom, for your country. And what I don't understand is these people can wake up in the mirror, look at themselves in the mirror, and actually think that they're actually some sort of a patriot, some kind of an American. Yeah, and you see you got a lot of people in here questioning slanderous lies. Slanderous lies about what? You just name it. Name it. The 9/11 Truth Movement. Oh, Bush had something to do with 9/11. Oh, Bush is taking our rights away. Give me a break. 646-652-4869. We're talking about the President of the United States. We're taking a look back at the things that he's done, the direction he's taken our country. Whether you agree or disagree, give me a call. Tell me why. 646-652-4869. If you're a liberal, tell me why you hate him. All right? Tell me why you don't like them. Tell me why you disagree with them. If you're a conservative and you don't like them, call me up and tell me what you disagree with them about. Like I stated, 646-652-4869. But like I stated previous, George W. Bush, the greatest American president in American history, a man that has basically had so much on his plate. I mean, this 9/11 was basically planned during the Clinton administration. As a matter of fact, the Clinton administration, with its lackadaisical approach and just ignore them and they'll go away policy with the terrorist acts, just perpetuated that horrific attack on our homeland. And George W. Bush basically had this fall into his lap, and he basically had to adjust his policy accordingly. And I think he's done one of the greatest jobs ever. The greatest job ever. I mean, he instilled integrity back into the White House. This is a man who's put in conservative, Republican Supreme Court justices that are going to eventually reverse Roe versus Wade and other such nonsense. This is a man who's implemented one of the greatest tax cuts in American history. I mean, I can go on and on about this man. On and on. He's a great president. I'm glad that he is in the presidency because I've said this before. Had Al Gore won the election in the year 2000, we'd all have pictures of Osama bin Laden over our fireplaces right now. That's right. If Al Gore won the election, we'd probably all have pictures of Osama bin Laden. We'd probably all have to be visiting some sheikh or some ayatollah or something. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. Anyway, 646-652-4869. We're talking about George W. Bush, the greatest American president in American history, a true patriot, a man who believes in freedom, who believes in democracy, who understands the seriousness of Islamic radicalism throughout the international community. And you see, these liberals, they actually believe if you hold hands and sing Kumbaya with the terrorists, that somehow they're gonna just go ahead and say, okay, we can be friends now. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. The only way we're going to win the war on terrorism is the way we're doing it now. We're going into a part of the world where it's just been dominated by Islamic radicalism. Islamic radicalism is being used by a handful of dictators in this region to suppress large masses of people into believing that if somehow they kill themselves to kill other people, that that's going to somehow give them religious significance. I mean, this is the kind of ideology that we're up against, and that's why George W. Bush has stated over and over and over that this is a battle against ideology. It's not about one man. It's not about one country. It's an ideology. And the only way that we're going to change this theocratic zealousy is if we sow the seeds of democracy in the heart of the Middle East, just like what George W. Bush is doing. And in about 20 or 30 years, Iraq, Afghanistan, and we're soon going to go into Iran, so I can throw Iran into that mix. These three countries here are going to be great examples to the international community and to the Muslim world. They're going to be just like what we did with Japan, South Korea, West Germany. They're going to be great products to the international community. And you're going to have all these other Islamic nations that are basically being subjugated by their tyrannical dictators with Islamic radicalism. You're going to see them rise up against their dictators and say, wait a minute, how come we can't have freedom? How come we can't have representative elections? How come we can't participate in the free market system? And you know what's going to happen? Democracy is going to spread like wildfire because we are living the end of history, folks. Democracy is the last form of social order. Democracy appeases all the wants and needs of human essence. I mean, and that's why if we fight this battle of ideology by implementing democracy in the heart of the Middle East, it's just going to perpetuate peace, just like Immanuel Kant stipulated a couple of hundred years ago. And you know what? I'm in just complete awe that George W. Bush understood this, and he's implemented probably one of the greatest strategies of all time. Anyway, 646-652-4869. Give me a call right now. We're talking about George W. Bush, his presidency. If you like George W. Bush, if you don't like George W. Bush, give me a call. Give me a call right now, 646-652-4869. We got, obviously, a bunch of bedwetting liberals in the chat room spewing off more slanderous lies against our president, and yet they don't have the testicular fortitude to get on the phone and call me and explain to me why. They just can't do that. They're just going to sit there and continue to flap their fat fingers on the keyboard, and instead of having some sort of, I don't know, I mean, maybe these people are women, intestinal fortitude to get up on a telephone and give me a call and tell me why George W. Bush is a bad president. 646-652-4869. You know, folks, I get a lot of criticism for being a conservative Republican. I mean, whenever I go into these little internet voice chat communities and attempt to facilitate debate by throwing an opposing viewpoint, I get bashed by the left, you know. There's no type of debate on the issues. Right off the bat, they're just going to call you names. They're going to just say the most filthiest, disgusting things about you because you don't hold their liberal belief. And as you can see, they've done it to our president. They do it to anybody who doesn't oblige themselves to their political ideology. And this is a form of agitation, like I've stated, over and over again. These people are subliminal authoritarian communists. Communists. That's what they are. Now, I have a few liberal friends that we discuss the issues, and they provide substance, I provide substance, but they're very far and few between. They're far and few between. Usually I see the type of liberals that are basically coming into my chat room right now spewing off a bunch of nonsense that means absolutely nothing. You know? I mean, look, if you happen to be by your computer, go ahead and take a look at this chat room at blogtalkradio.com/ghost and take a look at all these people hiding behind guest names, spewing off nothing but a bunch of four-letter words, logical fallacies, which is typical from the left. I'm used to this type of thing. I'm used to it. This is what they do. They love to do this because, you know, the typical motivation of a liberal is to have more government. Have more government. They want government to give them every single thing. They want so much government, they want government to give them their house, their car, their job, their dog, their wife, their goldfish. That's what these people want. And that's not what we want. That's not what America was built on. America was built on freedom. George W. Bush understands that. That's why we're trying to spread freedom in parts of the world that are being suppressed by either theocracy or some ridiculous regime. I mean, look at these people. Look at how they're willing just to lay their lives on the line to kill as many Americans as possible just because of ridiculous theocracy. You see, what these liberals don't understand, and George W. Bush does, is that when you finally implement democracy in the heart of the Middle East, all right, that you're going to be able to separate their spheres of consciousness. For instance, in America, I'm a Christian myself. I believe in the Bible. You will never hear me talk about anything religion, anything that has anything to do with religious significance on this radio show or anywhere I happen to participate in the debate. because that's one sphere of consciousness. My other sphere of consciousness understands that we have a social rule of law, and we must abide by that to maintain social order. You see, the people over here in the Middle East, they don't understand that. They can't separate the spheres of consciousness. All they know is theocracy. All they understand is that the Quran is law, and that's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. There is no separate spheres of consciousness, and that's what the liberals don't understand. As a matter of fact, I don't think they care to understand. I don't think they give a damn. All they care about is if they get their government subsidy check in the week or every week, so that they can be able to get drunk or beat their wives or whatever these liberals do. Anyway, 646-652-4869. We're talking about George W. Bush. 8 years. Man, I can't believe it's already been 8 years. 8 years. Anyway, if you like the man, if you don't like the man, give me a call. I see a lot of people in chat room that don't like the man, and yet they don't have the testicular fortitude to get on the phone and give me a call. All they want to do is agitate. That's all they want to do. Nobody wants to facilitate any kind of debate. They don't want to talk about the issues. No, I mean, you can take a good whiff of what I'm talking about by just looking at the Democratic primaries here. The Democratic primaries are a good example of what the motivation of Democrats are. It's just agitation. Pure, simple agitation. I mean, they're campaigning, if you don't vote for Barack Obama, that you're a racist piece of trash. And if you don't vote for Hillary Clinton, you're a woman-hating, chauvinist pig. That's the basic underlying premise in both of those campaigns, and the Democrats should be disgusted with themselves. They should be absolutely disgusted. As a matter of fact, I'm so disgusted, I literally want to puke up. I literally want to puke up some 5-day-old cereal and stomach plasma every time I look on the television, this liberal media who's trying to shove this damn Barack Obama down my throat, and I don't even know the man's political platform. And I tried to question his political platform last evening, and I was called some sort of a grand dragon. I mean, I was called some sort of a ridiculous racist or something. I'm not racist. I never even... And you see, this is what the Democrats should be held responsible for, is that they're throwing our country back about 20 or 30 years into a racial divide that is just completely obnoxious. We're in a new millennium. All right? I mean, why are the Democrats trying to throw us back into a turbulent time in our history? I just don't understand this. If you are a Democrat, please give me a call right now, 646-652-4869, and tell me how these two campaigns, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, are being responsible and not dividing America. I'd like somebody to give me a call right now and tell me that. And you know what? I'm not going to get a call. You want to know why? Because they know it's true. They know that these people are dividing the country, and they should be ashamed of themselves. Both of those people. Do you hear Barack Obama coming out and say, you know what, let's stop the racial overtones. I want to win this election based on my credibility, based on my political views, based on my personal character. But no, you haven't heard him say that, did you? You haven't heard him say that whatsoever. It's just ridiculous. Absolutely, utterly sickening. And then you got the liberals in here, they don't want to give George W. Bush any kind of credit. They think that Bill Clinton is the best thing since the damn invention of the wheel, not knowing that Clinton's policies is what's perpetuated this war on terror. Not only that, Bill Clinton was the man that has redefined the term sexual relations, and then we wonder why our children, our teenage children, are acting like a bunch of deviants. It's just unbelievable. I can't believe I'm living in this America in 2008. 2008. It's unbelievable. We're at a real integral portion of our history at this point. I think that this next election coming up is going to be a very important one. We don't need this little tuck tail and runaway kind of ideology being spewed off out here. It only emboldens the terrorists. It only makes them believe that the more terror that they inflict upon the United States and the Western world, that somehow that's going to dictate our foreign policy. That's the only type of ideology it perpetuates. And anybody who disagrees with me, why don't you grow a pair, get on the phone, 646-652-4869, give me a call right now and tell me what's going on. Anyway, George W. Bush, great president. You know, the conservative movement was lucky to have a man like George W. Bush, because the Democrats came 2000, they thought they were just going to win hands down. They thought they were just going to win hands down, no doubt about it. And you know what's so funny about the Democrats? And this just proves to me that they're authoritarian communists. What did they do to that vice presidential candidate back then in 2000? Remember him? Joe Lieberman? A man that means what he says what he means. What did the Democrats do to him? They throw him under the damn car so they can run him over because they disagreed with him on one issue. And that's typical of the Democrats. That's why it's hard for me to give any kind of credence to any of these liberals, because these liberals don't want anybody saying anything in opposition to them. And that Joe Lieberman situation just proves it. And it's sad what they did to Lieberman. It's just absolutely, utterly sad. But that's the left for you. For all you conservatives that listen in, and there are a lot of you. I get a lot of emails every day. There's a lot of you conservatives that are listening. Please, take note of what the left is doing. I mean, look at how they've tried to tear down our president. Look at how they've tried to spread all these agitating lies and all this garbage about our president. I mean, you got them going as far as to say that George W. Bush had something to do with 9/11. It's ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. I don't know what to say. I mean, like I stated, I'm glad that George W. Bush was a president. Because had Al Gore won, I don't know where we'd be at this point. Like I stated, we'd probably all be speaking Arabic or something right now. We'd probably be having to pray about 5 times a day had Al Gore been president. Preacher, what did Bush do? I'm reading the chat right here, and somebody's asking me, well, what did Bush do? What didn't he do? He went out and he tried to kill all the terrorists. He's battling the war against ideology. He's fighting Islamic radicalism. He's putting people on notice. I mean, this man has implemented America as the supreme superior superpower in the international community. I mean, you got countries that were once trying to get uppity with America now bowing down to America. Remember Gaddafi? Remember that guy? Old boy from Libya? What happened? He relinquished his weapons of mass destruction because he was afraid. He was afraid that George W. Bush was going to go in there and take him out. That's what he's done there, preacher politics. I challenge you, preacher politics. Why don't you give me a call right now, 646-652-4869, and tell me a piece of liberal-based legislation that has any kind of real significance that has been passed within the past 25 years. Why don't you do that? Give me a piece of liberal legislation that has any kind of credence that has done anything for our country within the past 25 years. And you know what? You're not going to call up. You want to know why you're not going to call up? Because there is none. There absolutely is none. Give me a break. 646-652-4869. We're talking about the great President George W. Bush, a man with integrity, a man who implemented America as the supreme superpower in the international community, a man that went and took America forward into the new millennium and understood that we're fighting a war against ideology. a man who put in the appropriate conservatives in the Supreme Court, a man that has implemented integrity back into the White House. It gave the White House something, some kind of credibility. Unlike our previous president, who basically utilized the presidency to, extort oral copulation from, 20-something interns, who redefined sexual relations. Sick. And you're going to have these liberals that say, oh, well, he was still, you know what, even though he was a lying piece of trash, you know what, he just does it so well. You just do it so well. He was openly admitted a liar, and yet you have these liberals that will just deny it and deny it and deny it. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I've got this one fellow who called my show some time back. I got my reasons coming in, trying to disguise himself as something called a progressive, when in actuality it's just another word for liberalism. Trying to state that I'm a bad guy. I'm a bad guy because I don't believe in his liberal politics. That's fine. I'll accept that. I got my reasons, because you're just a liberal. You're one of these people that actually think that we still need unions in America. That we still need unions, like we're still living without any kind of regulation on businesses. Like, just give me a break. Give me a break. 646-652-4869. You know what? I got my reasons. Give me a call. Give me a call. I'll debate you on the issues. Tell me why Bush is a bad president. All right? Unions, give me a call right now. I got my reasons. Give me a call right now. Don't just sit there and just type a bunch of logical fallacies. I will debate you, sir. I will debate you and make you look like a mental midget, because I know what I'm talking about. I'm not like you that are just spewing off propaganda that's been regurgitated over and over and over again by left-wing liberals. And of course you're not going to call. You want to know why? Because you know better. I don't blame you for not calling. Because you don't know what you're talking about. 646-652-4869. What's unfortunate about the situation is that our future looks unstable at best. Now that George W. Bush is going to leave the White House, we really don't know what's going to happen. I look at the left of the political persuasion, and it's just ridiculous. They're trying to divide our country into men against women. They try to divide our country into, African American. If you don't vote for this African American, you're a racist piece of garbage. It's disgusting. Absolutely, utterly disgusting. 646-652-4869. George W. Bush, the greatest president in American history, a man who's going to be, I wouldn't be surprised, I would not be surprised in about 20 or 30 years, history looks back upon this man and is critical about all those that criticized him. All those that criticized him. So, you know what, preacher? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. If Barack Hussein Obama wins the election by some miracle, I wouldn't be surprised if he implements some sort of Sharia law. That's how unstable I think our future is. Because I don't know one thing about this man. And the media, the liberal media, is basically just spewing this man down my throat, and I don't know what he is for. I don't know his political platform. I don't know anything about him. I don't know anything about him. All I hear is change, change, change. It's a damn mantra I hear on a consistent basis, and it's disgusting. How are you going to change things? I mean, doesn't this idiot understand that we have a country that abides itself by a certain rule of law? How are you going to change it? He hasn't stipulated one thing other than that he wants to open up a dialogue with Iran, which is responsible for 75% of the world's terror. He wants to basically cut and run from Iraq. I mean, other than that, that's about all I know about the man. So, I mean, if you happen to know Barack Obama's platform, please call me. I had a Barack Obama supporter call me last night, and because I questioned the man's experience and whether or not he's ready to be the president of the free world, I was called a racist. And this is what these campaigns are inducing. They're actually embracing it. You don't hear Barack Obama coming out and saying, you know what, I understand that, you know, people are trying to put racial overtones on this election, but I'm a man of character. I want America to elect me not because of the color of my skin, but my character, my political platform, my views. But no, he hasn't stated that. You want to know why? Because this is what he's perpetuating. This is exactly what he's perpetuating. It's disgusting. And, you know, the people that support this man, that's exactly what they're spewing out. Yeah, you're a racist if you don't support Barack Obama. You're a racist. That's exactly what they stated on MSNBC when they got the New Hampshire primaries wrong. They stated that the New Hampshire, which is comprised of mostly moderates to liberals, are racist. I mean, that's basically, what was this guy named, I forgot, some African-American professor from Georgetown University on MSNBC, and that's basically what he was stipulating. He was saying that the reason that the New Hampshire primaries were wrong was because people didn't want to say that they didn't vote for a black man. I mean, are you kidding me? Are you actually kidding me? And you don't hear Barack Obama stopping this garbage. I mean, as a matter of fact, they even criticized Bill Clinton. And you know what? I hate Clinton. I thought he was bad for the country, but I thought it was utterly ridiculous that the black community basically called Bill Clinton, which was once known as the first black president, they're calling him like a goddamn Ku Klux Klan member because he said that, this fairy tale of Barack Obama. I mean, you had Al Sharpton, you had all these ridiculous imbeciles that use race to basically put more corn in their pocket and to put their mug on television, basically calling the quote-unquote first black president a racist because of something he stated in a campaign. And that's just utterly ridiculous. Did you see George W. Bush dividing the country? No. He tried to unify the country. So, I don't understand. I don't understand it. 646-652-4869. Give me a call right now. Got a lot of liberals in the chat room, I see. And of course, none of them will get the testicular fortitude to give me a call and actually debate me on the issues. They're just going to continue spreading more lies about our president. As a matter of fact, some of the liberals that called me last evening were just spewing off more and more of the same rhetoric that you hear from these damn liberals with no substance. I mean, they were mad at Bush. I mean, these people are still mad at George W. Bush, and he's only got one more year left. That's it. It's over. It's over. It's absolutely over. But you know, these liberals, they ain't going to let it die. They're not going to let it die. Anyway, 646-652-4869. Preacher Politics is sitting over here claiming he's not a liberal, and yet he's spreading the same slanderous garbage I hear from all these left-wing long hairs that just despise Bush because he doesn't want to put more government that's going to put more government power, more government money in their hands. And this is the liberals. I mean, they're not going to be happy unless government is giving them everything. Everything. They want everything handed to them on a silver platter, hand out health care. You know, they're blaming George W. Bush for the subprime crisis, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. This subprime mortgage situation is, I mean, don't these liberals take any personal responsibility with themselves? I mean, with freedom comes just an element of personal responsibility. Now, why is it George W. Bush's fault that you Nimrods out there put your name on something that you didn't even read, but no, it's George Bush's fault? It's George Bush's fault. It's ridiculous. Yeah, it just makes me sick. It's a sad day. You know, you would think that the conservative movement, since we dominated the political spectrum out here, you'd think that the conservative movement would stand up and try to combat these individuals who are spreading these slanderous lies. But then when you do that, they'll do everything in the book. I had a conservative Republican fella that I met on one of these voice chat communities who stated that because of his political perspective, which was he was a conservative Republican, the liberals, not only did they harass him and call him every name in the book, they found out who he was, and they threatened his family. They threatened his life because he was a conservative Republican. They emailed him one of those aerial view shots from Google Earth of his house and said, well, you know, I'm going to bomb this place and that sort of thing. And this is typical of the left, you know. I mean, if you disagree with them, they will do anything necessary to suppress your political perspective. And that's no joke. That is absolutely no joke. And if you don't believe me, I challenge you to go to any one of these internet chat communities and go try to, even if you're a liberal, go in there and try to throw a conservative viewpoint. Try to just pose an opposing viewpoint that isn't regurgitated by all the people that just patronize in the room and spewing the same regurgitated propaganda. And see how fast if they have the power to do so, they'll kick you out of the room. They'll take away your ability to speak. They'll call you all kinds of names and say stuff about your family. They don't even know you. It's ridiculous. And I got my reasons. Look, I understand that there's conservatives that do that as well, and I don't condone that activity either. So if you got a letter from a conservative that was threatening in any way, well, that's a damn shame, and I'm sorry that you got one. All right? Even though you think I'm some bad guy, you think I'm some moron or whatever you're spewing here in the chat room, you know, I'm actually apologizing for the Nimrod that did that. So, you know what? I got my reasons. Even though you're a left-winger and even though you're trying to disguise yourself as another label, conservatives that participate in that kind of activity, threatening liberals and that sort of thing, it's just uncalled for, and I'm sorry you got one. I'm sorry you got one. 646-652-4869. We were talking about George W. Bush, his legacy, how he's going to go down in history, taking a look back at some of the decisions he made, that sort of thing. So, if you have any kind of opinion on George W. Bush, please, by all means, give me a call, 646-652-4869. And we'll talk about it. We'll facilitate debates, that sort of thing. I mean, I think this is the greatest president in American history, and I've already stated why. He's redefined the political theoretical landscape of America. We're no longer going to have a pacifist approach to foreign policy. We're not going to sit back and just allow the terrorists to hit us like they did with Bill Clinton. You know, Bill Clinton just said, oh, you know what, we're just going to ignore them and they'll go away. We're just going to ignore them and they'll go away. No, they're not going to go away. As a matter of fact, his pacifist approach emboldened the terrorists. I mean, Osama bin Laden was quoted as saying that Mogadishu incident, that Black Hawk Down, was the single incident that inspired him to continue on with his terrorism against America. And Bill Clinton, as much as he likes to deny it, I remember him being interviewed on Fox News, and they confronted him with this. They said, look, sir, don't you agree that, your lackadaisical approach on terrorism in the 90s kind of perpetuated this ridiculous garbage? And you know what he said? He didn't say anything. All he said was, you see, you people from Fox News, this is what you like to do, blah, 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 blah. Of course, the right-wing conspiracy theory, It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. 646-652-4869. Hey, I got my reasons. Look, if you disagree with me, give me a call. Give me a call, and we'll debate. Don't try to talk over me when you call me either. That's why I hung up on you last time. You're just trying to talk over me. Give me a call. I will give your persuasion some airtime on here, because you're telling me you're a progressive, but at the same time, the rhetoric that you were talking the last time you called my show was a lot of liberal propaganda, and you're trying to disguise it under the the progressive label. And with all due respect, I got my reasons. I think you are a liberal. I think you are a liberal. And I know that you want to deny it, and maybe you're ashamed of openly admitting you're a liberal, and I don't blame you for that. But, sir, the ideology that you were spewing off the other evening, that's exactly what you were doing. It was liberalism. You were promoting unions. You were promoting the unions. And let me tell you something. Union labor, it's no longer needed. What unions are doing are just strong-arming corporations and small businesses and other companies across the United States into giving them more money for unskilled labor. That's what unions have culminated to at this point. Now, do I agree that they were needed at one point in time back in history? Of course. Of course, I'll agree with that, but I'm not going to agree and sit here and say, hey, look, I believe in unions. I believe that unions should strong-arm companies. You know what unionism is at this point in time? I got my reasons. All right, it's a guy who's probably putting the tail on the ass of a Pokemon in an assembly line factory, wanting to get $72,000 a year for that garbage. That's what union is. That's what union is. They don't want to work more than 7 hours a day or whatever the ridiculous garbage is. There's been a whole bunch of issues of that nature that unions have strong-armed companies into having to pallet. And it's just disgusting. Look at the writer's strike, for heaven's sake. Look at the writer's strike. That's a perfect example of what union labor will get. Here you got a whole bunch of writers who are all, fat jelly asses that sit in a chair all day and just write anything. And they want to get paid more money for that. They want to get paid more money for that. Like they don't get paid enough already. With all due respect, if you're a writer, that's great. But you're sitting on your ass writing a bunch of garbage, and with all due respect, you're getting paid more than somebody who's getting their nails dirty and doing some manual labor somewhere, doing some construction work and that sort of thing. You're getting paid more than them, and you're sitting on your ass. And as a result, you're sitting here putting halt on production of all kinds of shows, all right? All the shows have halt production, which means that people are losing jobs, people aren't getting paid because you people in the writers' union want to sit here and just basically say, you know what, we're more important than the man who controls the gaffers and the man who controls the camera, and we're more important than the guy who's the little production assistant and the man who's the caterer, and all these people that these shows employ because you fat asses, got a little union together and decided, you know what, I want more money and this is what we're going to do, we're just going to stop writing. It's just sad. It's just absolutely, utterly sad. And this is why I disagree with the modern union today. Because it ruins American work ethic. Nobody wants to work anymore. Everybody wants something for nothing. And this is why I state that, you know, if you believe in unions, you're a liberal, regardless of what you want to put your political platform as or what you want to disguise yourself as. It ruins American work ethic. It wants people to work for nothing, or wants to get money for nothing. $72,000 a year to work in an assembly line to do the same damn thing over and over and over. It's ruined the American work ethic. And then they wonder why our jobs are being shipped out. You know? Because the American work ethic has gone down the tubes and the price of pay has gone higher. It's sad. It's really sad. Anyway, we've gotten off on a different tirade here because we have a gentleman who has another show on Blog Talk Radio. His name's I Got My Reasons. He's stipulating that he's not a liberal, he's a progressive. And I'm just stipulating that he's not a progressive, that he's a liberal because he believes in unions. So, anyway, that's enough of that. We're talking about George W. Bush, how he's the greatest president in American history, a man who's had so much on his plate that he's had to deal with, and he's dealt with it with pride and integrity. I mean, this is a man who understands that we're fighting a war against ideology, you know? We're fighting a war against ideology, and you see these liberals they don't even care. They don't care about that. They want their handout. That's what they want. Haven't you noticed that's the forefront issues on most of the people on the left? Handout health care, you know? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely, utterly ridiculous. 646-652-4869. Give me a call right now. You know? Give me a call. We want to know what you think about George W. Bush. Do you agree with his policies? Do you agree that we should be fighting a war against ideology? Do you agree with the fact that this is a new day and age and we have to redefine our political theoretical standpoint when it comes to foreign policy? We can't have the Bill Clinton pacifist approach. We can no longer have the Machiavellian realist approach. Because that's what we've been doing as America pre-Clinton. We had the Machiavellian realist approach, and we've dealt with a lot of precarious characters, a lot of unscrupulous dictators, just for the sake of continuing peace over here in our homeland. And you see, George W. Bush has redefined the theoretical approach. We are now Hobbesian realists when it comes to our foreign policy, and rightfully so. Right out of the book of Leviathan. For all you liberals, that's the book that Thomas Hobbes wrote, because I know most of you aren't very educated on these things, so please read that book, and that's exactly the political theoretical platform that we're utilizing for our foreign policy. And we have to. We can't just let people do what they want to do out here anymore, because we've done that, and look at what's happened. We've allowed dictators in parts of the world, like a little bit more than a handful of dictators in the Middle East, to utilize Islamic radicalism to suppress millions of people. Millions of people. And from the time they're born, they're indoctrinated with radical Islam so that their governments can utilize them to implement their personal agenda. And it's utterly disgusting. And what's even more disgusting to me is that people from the left, they don't even want to acknowledge that this is happening. They don't even give credit to the president for acknowledging this. They just want to hate on him. I have heard so much slanderous, borderline treasonous lies against my president. It's just utterly disgusting that these people can continue on to do this without some sort of federal authority watching over these people. You know? And these are the same people that say, wait, I can't say nothing, I can't do nothing, my freedom is being taken away because of George W. Bush, and yet they're on a chat community spreading slanderous lies about the man. And I don't hear any secret police knocking down their door and taking them away and putting them in a gulag or in a concentration camp, so that's a big logical fallacy whenever you hear a liberal saying that their rights are being taken away. And that's one of the main issues that these liberals try to attack George Bush on. And there's no rights being taken away. Don't let these people fool you. Don't let these people fool you. I mean, I'm saying what I want to say without anybody suppressing me. I got my reasons of saying everything without anybody suppressing him, and so on and so forth. So don't let these liberals say that our rights are being taken away, because they don't know their ass from their elbow. 646-652-4869. Give me a call right now. We're talking about George W. Bush. We're talking about how and why he's the greatest American president in American history. He's going to go down as one of the great ones. And I'm glad that he was elected in the year 2000, because had Al Gore won the election, I guarantee you we would be holding hands right now with Osama bin Laden. It's ridiculous. 646-652-4869. Give me a call right now. Tell me if you agree, if you disagree, and tell me why. Tell me why you disagree if you don't believe that George W. Bush is a great president. I'd like to know. Provide some substance, you know. I mean, I hate these liberal talking points, you know, these blanketed statements that these liberals like to use whenever referring to George W. Bush. I mean, give me a call. Tell me why you don't like him. 646-652-4869 is the number to call. And I'm looking in here in the chat room. You got a couple of liberals in here, and you got a couple of people that are conservative, and I thank you conservative people for listening in. We've got to come together, folks. As conservative Republicans, we've got to come together. I mean, that's the only way that we're going to continue to implement our agenda. And our agenda is nothing hidden. I mean, we want freedom. We want freedom. We got a president who's trying to spread freedom throughout the international community. Thank you very much, Ozone. You're a good American. And if you're not an American, you're a good person. I've met people throughout the international community that actually agree that George W. Bush is doing the right thing. And he is doing the right thing. Look, listen, Ozone, I'm glad you brought that up, that Bush is a liberal. I'm glad you brought that up. Because I'll explain to the folks that don't understand political theory why he's liberal in theory. You see, the Democrats have redefined the term liberalism and utilized it to disguise their hidden agenda. Now, liberalism in political theory means someone who believes in the spread of democracy. There's many types of liberals. There are the pacifist liberals, which usually try to spread democracy with such things such as non-government organizations, NGOs. You know, this is how the pacifist liberal believes that we can perpetuate democracy. Then you've got institutionalist liberals, which believe that international organizations like NATO and the UN are a tool for spreading liberal democracy. And then you have power liberals, which believe that you can spread democracy by force. And I'm of the persuasion that you have to spread democracy by force in certain situations, because if you don't, if you let people run roughshod over the international community, you're going to have the turbulence that you have in the Middle East currently. You got a handful of dictators out here suppressing millions of people with theocracy. I mean, that's what people don't understand out here. Anyway, 646-652-4869. Give me a call right now. We're talking about George W. Bush, how he's the greatest American president in American history, and why. If you don't agree with me, or if you do agree with me, give me a call, tell me why. 646-652-4869 is the number to call. Give me a call. Now, I see we have an open communist in the room here, political vindication. He made a statement here earlier, workers of the world unite, which is straight out of the Communist Manifesto. And I don't understand why you would say something like that, their political, vindication. Why would you say something like that? Why would you spew off communist propaganda like this? It's bad enough that you got the domestic liberals in America sitting here spewing off propaganda for the communists with the guise of Democrats. But you're obviously somebody who's a worshiper of Karl Marx. Am I wrong? I mean, that was a pretty bold statement. It's ridiculous. 646-652-4869. Give me a call right now. We're talking about George W. Bush. This is a great president. Well, what was then political vindication? What was this that you were texting in chat here? You text, workers of the world unite. That is straight out of the Communist Manifesto, my friend. And believe me, I've read every single political theoretical book there is out here. I mean, don't you agree or don't? Oh, well, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know that you were being facetious. You said up here, workers of the world unite. I thought that maybe you were a Karl Marx worshiper or something. That's why I had to question that. That made me almost throw up the ham sandwich I had. You know what I mean? I felt that ham and cheese sandwich coming back up when you wrote that. Anyway, 646-652-4869. Give me a call right now. Let me know what you think about George W. Bush. You have a lot of liberals up in the chat room here that have been sitting here spewing off more slanderous lies that I'm usually used to seeing. As you can see, I got my reasons over here. This progressive still here spewing off more logical fallacies, which is, like I said, it's a method of agitation that was invented by the communists. And he doesn't want to listen to the fact that he's a liberal. He wants to disguise himself with some ridiculous garbage called progressive. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, 646-652-4869. Yesterday evening I was talking about the primaries. And the reason I'm going back to this is because I'm just utterly disgusted with the Democrats' way of campaigning their campaigns, I mean, I remember them accusing the great George W. Bush about, oh, well, he's a divider, not a uniter. And the Democrats are dividing the country and throwing a country back at least 20 or 30 years in not only race relations, but in gender relations. I mean, you got the Hillary Clinton campaign basically touting and subliminally saying that if you don't vote for Hillary Clinton, you're a damn sexist pig. You got the Barack Obama campaign stating that if you don't vote for Barack Obama, you're a racist piece of garbage. And I see that I got my reasons, which is the so-called progressive who has a little artsy-fartsy show on this little blog talk radio is leaving, tucking tail and leaving, which is pretty much I'm used to seeing whenever I see a liberal trying to spew off a bunch of garbage. But it's okay, It's all rhetoric. I hear this every single day from these liberals, spewing off more and more logical fallacies. It's disgusting. Anyway, today's topic was George W. Bush, the greatest American president. We're looking back at his legacy, the things that he's done, that sort of thing. And what he's done for the country is take it in a new direction. But what's horrifying is that on the left, they want us to go backwards about 20 or 30 years, and on the right, being a conservative Republican, I'm kind of concerned because there's really no clear-cut winner on the Republican side or a clear-cut leader. We talked to a few conservatives last evening. They have their support for Duncan Hunter, who's not getting any kind of press coverage because I guess he's not politically viable for the mainstream media. You got people wanting to support Rudy Giuliani, which I like Rudy Giuliani. I think he did great things for New York. I think he is a good man when it comes to international relations and his foreign policy, but I don't like the fact that he's a social liberal. I mean, most of these men on the right that are running for president are social liberals. I mean, I don't agree with people that are social liberals because, I mean, I think that being a social conservative should be the root of the Republican Party. I mean, it's social conservatism that's keeping the American family alive. You got liberalism and feminism trying to destroy the American family, and it seems to me that they're almost destroying our party. I mean, look at all the social liberals running for president on the Republican side. And the only person that isn't a social liberal, Mike Huckabee, he's a liberal when it comes to his governing policies. You know, he freed I don't know how many jailbirds out of his state. He governs like a liberal. But he's a social conservative. I just don't understand such contradictions. I don't understand such contradictions. And why the Republican Party allowed Ron Paul to run under the disguise of the Republican Party is beyond me as well. It's beyond me as well. I mean, this man has got a platform to spew off his borderline liberal propaganda, and he's using a Republican forum to do so. And like I've stated time and time again, mark my word, Ron Paul will run as a third-party candidate, and he's going to run under the Libertarian Party. He's going to utilize that $20 million that he raised last quarter. He's going to utilize that to siphon votes away from the Republican Party. I guarantee it. But there's good news. Mike Bloomberg this week announced that he is investing in an exploratory committee to run for president. And I believe that if this man runs for president, even though he's a Republican or tries to disguise himself as a Republican, he's probably one of the biggest social liberals on the East Coast. I think that he'll siphon votes away from the Democrats if he happens to run as an independent. You know? I believe it. I believe that's what's going to happen. Mark my word. Mark my word. Anyway, 646-652-4869. Give me a call. Let me know what you think. We're talking about George W. Bush. We talked about what he's done for this country. We're talking about the future of America. Future looks unstable at best. You know? Anyway, give me a call, 646-652-4869. Give me a call. Give me a call, and we'll see what's going on. Hey, I got my reasons. Give me a call right now. We'll discuss whatever you want to talk about because I'd like for you to enlighten me on the fact that what exactly is a progressive. Now, if you're discussing the progressive movement that happened at the turn of the 20th century, that has nothing to do with the garbage that you were rambling about previous. Anyway, 516 area code. You're on the air.
How you doing? I know you'd prefer to talk to a liberal, but I have to say I agree with most everything you say.
Oh, I thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah, the Democrats, I think they got the whole country focused on getting what they need from the government instead of producing and getting it for themselves. And we're going to go out of business unless we. Bush has been wonderful when it comes to foreign affairs. I mean, he should be the man of the year after what's going on in Iraq and civil war was averted.
Absolutely, and you know what? Nobody gives him any type of credit whatsoever. On the contrary, and this is what upsets me. This is what upsets me. You've got the liberals on the left that just spew off nothing but a bunch of logical fallacies, and I don't know if you're here in the chat room with me here.
Yeah, I'm the ozone.
Oh, well, I'm sitting here and watching these logical fallacies being posted on the chat room, and I hear this on a consistent basis. And they're sitting here, you know, playing cafeteria history, you know, nitpicking what they want to utilize to heighten their ideology, and yet they don't want to look at the facts. And the facts are that George W. Bush is arguably probably one of the greatest presidents in American history. I mean, this is a man who understands that we are in an era of terror, and the only way that we're going to get rid of this terrorist garbage is if we battle this war on ideology, correct?
Yeah, he did it, and he did it while the entire world and all the liberals and all the Democrats are doing everything under the sun to try to stop him, and then he still did it.
Absolutely. So you like George W. Bush, sir?
I do, but you know what? I think he wasn't strong enough on cutting spending. I mean, spending is up, social program spending is up, and also on the border. I mean, he didn't do I don't think he did what he had to do. But as far as, I'm thankful that he's the president and that he's doing what he's doing. Cutting taxes was the right thing. You know, he just didn't cut the spending, and he didn't do the border, and I don't know why.
You know, that's one thing that I disagreed with George W. Bush on was the border, but I think he attempted to facilitate to do something. I think it was halted by liberal lawyers, and not only liberal lawyers, but the liberals themselves. I mean, they riled up the immigrant community in America to basically march. You remember those marches, sir?
Yeah.
I mean, the people that agitated this whole march nonsense were the liberals. I mean, they're trying to sell the fact that the only reason these people are coming over here is for humanitarian purposes, and that's great, you know, but we have to take a look at our national security here.
Right. I mean, they're worried about jobs going overseas, but when an immigrant comes here, he's taking jobs of Americans, and he's not only taking jobs Americans won't do. An illegal immigrant will take any job that they can get, and if you can manage a restaurant, then you'll get that job, and you'll do it for half price that they had to pay the American, and the American is out of work. And
absolutely. And you know what the debate is for most liberals when it comes to the immigration policy, sir? It's the fact that they say, well, you know, we're the melting pot, remember? We're built on immigrants. Well, you know, they're trying to compare the immigrant influx of the turn of the 20th century to the immigrant influx that we're having currently, and you can't compare the two. Because the people that came into this country at the turn of the century in World War II and when all the influx of immigrants came in back then, they were coming not knowing what they were going to get. They were coming into the unknown. I mean, it was an isolationist country, America, back then.
Right.
And, you know, to compare those immigrants who basically just came over here not knowing what was going to happen to them and comparing them to the immigrants of today who are basically coming into the superpower of the world, you just can't compare the two. Am I correct, sir, or am I off the hinge?
You're 100% correct. And something even funnier, which I don't think it's funny actually, but that illegal immigrants who come here, before they even got here, they already were convinced by liberals that just the fact that they are illegal immigrants makes them great because America was built on illegal immigrants. So if you come here and you're an illegal immigrant, you're the reason that America is great.
And that is ridiculous, too, because all the immigrants at the turn of the 20th century were documented.
Right. Yeah, they sent back to Ellis Island. They send back the child if he's sick, and if the family wants to go back, they can go back with him or not. It's their choice to split up the family, but they turn people away all the time.
And that's what I was just about to say. You know, Ellis Island's a perfect example of this. I mean, you know, as soon as they came in, no matter what nationality they were in, they were basically embraced with open arms, documented, and basically nationalized as American citizens at that time. But these people are coming across the border, not providing any kind of documentation, and I believe we're at what? Do you know the exact number? Like 12 million, sir?
I bet you I'm sure it's more than that.
Yeah, the last time I heard, there's 12 million illegal immigrants in the country, and like I stated previous, George W. Bush attempted to do something. I know he tried to pass the wall and other such immigration policies, but what happened was you got halted by liberals, not only in the Democratic Party and the people that are in power, but you had liberals that have power in the media that were also haltering George W. Bush with the border. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I think he could have done more. He's the commander in chief, and I believe he could have done more. He said he was going to sign that bill of the Kennedy-McCain with the immigration and the amnesty.
Yeah.
He said he was going to sign that bill if it passed.
Really?
Isn't that true? Yeah, that's what he said, but then the Congress didn't pass it.
No, I don't remember that. I have to look that up, but if that's the case...
because he's from Texas, so he's he's sympathetic, and I'm sympathetic. But you know what? The key thing to me is the rule of law. And they say these are law-abiding people, but the first thing they did here is break the law to get in here. It's like someone walking out of a store stealing something and then saying, "Oh, he's law-abiding. He just stole something, but he's law-abiding."
Yeah.
But, I think we have to get rid of the illegal immigrants and bring in. If we get rid of 12 million Mexican illegal immigrants, we bring in another 12 million Mexican legal immigrants, people that were waiting online, people that we know for sure are law-abiding because we don't have any proof that they're not.
I thought it was interesting what Fred Thompson said about the immigration issue in the last debates. Did you happen to hear what he said?
I don't remember.
Well, he stipulated that to help solve the immigration problem, what he would do if he was president, which I think he kind of carbon copied what Duncan Hunter was trying to do, but he basically stipulated that if you cut federal funding from the sanctuary cities that embrace this particular illegal immigration issue or this immigration problem, that is going to reverse the process.
Right.
That if you cut federal funding to local cities that embrace this type of activity, that it'll give them a financial incentive to basically put these people on buses and back to the countries of their origin.
Right, but the thing is that I think it's the federal government that really has to deport them, right? The states themselves don't deport them, and if the federal government's not deporting illegal immigrants that are turned in by states or cities to the immigration services, that's what the problem Giuliani had. You can't. If the government's not deporting them, then you're stuck with them. They can either be criminals and be victims of crime, or you can do what you got to do. I think that's what Giuliani did. I think that when he's elected, he knows that the rule of law is key, and if that's the law, then you're breaking the law. We got to start deporting them, and I think as soon as we start deporting them, they're gonna go back in line and. They're not going to want to be arrested and go to jail, and we're going to have a struggle with this for a while.
I agree with you. We have another caller here. I'm going to see if they have an opposition viewpoint. 212 area code. You're on the air.
Hey, I got my reasons. How are you guys?
Oh, how you doing? I got my reasons. It's good to see you this evening.
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm just fine. I saw you in text. I saw you in text chat. What is it that you want to discuss?
Well, I waited to call in because I really didn't want to talk about the other stuff, but the illegal immigration thing, I think, the correct name for the problem is the illegal employment problem.
I can give some credence in that.
Because it's basically like, we can say, if you have some very poor people and whatever, who are crossing the border for jobs, but the people that are going to get rich off of those people, that's really, if the jobs weren't here and the corporations weren't providing them, there'd be much less of a problem. And the same thing's true, like the Mexican, let me try to get this straight. The Mexican prime minister, I guess, president is.
He's the president.
Yeah,
well, supposedly,
like promoting people leaving the country because their economics are so stratified. There's basically like very rich people that control everything, and then everybody else. He wants to get them out. Like, he's cool with it. So until Mexico addresses, and that's a whole other thing, NAFTA, all that stuff, whatever. Until Mexico addresses their internal politics in a way that's productive, and until Americans, it's like the elephant in the room, until Americans really look at the problem from both sides. And again, you can call me a liberal, progressive, whatever, but until the corporations take some of the heat for this, we're not going to get anywhere.
I can agree with you on that, whether you're progressive or a liberal, that the corporations need to be held accountable. But at the same time, and I asked both of you, Ozone's still with us, and I got my reasons. I asked both of you, if we decide to somehow, I don't know how, but if we decide to export most, if not all, the 12 million illegal or more illegal immigrants that are in the country, could that hurt us economically?
Definitely.
So what would be the remedy for the economic ramifications for illegal immigration?
I don't think there is a remedy. If you want my my left-leaning opinion. I think it's a paper tiger. I think it's set up for opposition politics to give the Republican Party something to talk about. That seems like they can roll up their sleeves and do something about. But ultimately, I don't think there's that much we can do about it. I think as long as we need those workers, we need the cheap labor, and that's what to me. That's the one time Bush told the truth. He said. He put out this thing like, well, we got to do something because we need these guys.
Well, what about the minimum wage? Are you for the minimum wage?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Well, what, don't we need cheaper workers and to keep the prices low? What, doesn't the minimum wage do the opposite of what you just claim the illegal immigrants are here for?
Well, see, it's an unresolvable problem. That's the point. I mean, it's not. I don't think. I think everybody in this if everybody in this. Okay, I'll go back to progressive stuff. Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
If everybody in this country had to make a living wage, not a good wage, but a living wage, enough money that they can live off of, then problems like the healthcare problems and people being uninsured and all this stuff basically fixes themselves. So it's if you have an underclass, if you have a permanent underclass, minimum wage, no minimum wage, it's not a good thing. So the minimum wage was designed to remedy that problem, and I think it largely did.
So look, I'm not insinuating anything for you there, Reasons, but are you saying, in not so many words, we're going to have to give these people amnesty?
No, I'm not saying that. I don't know what the solution is.
I have a solution.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Ozone.
Okay, we start enforcing the law, and we start deporting, and the news will spread within 24 hours. Every enforcement that happens, the news will spread. And we can also go after employers. Employers are just as responsible. Anyone that's not following the law is responsible.
Do you know what's happening in Arizona?
Well, look, this is what I say. We deport, and we start deporting, and we start accepting legal immigrants.
Okay, because there's another side to that coin.
There's 100 million people waiting to come in.
There's another side to that coin. The other side is what's happening in Arizona is they have a strict new law that goes after the companies that employ them, that deport immigrants, the whole thing, and it's gonna put a dent, in my opinion, it's gonna put a dent in their economy, and they're gonna be racing to get back to where they were, and the states around Arizona are gonna get that labor.
That's the same thing that happens when you raise the minimum wage. The same thing, taking out illegal immigrants is the same. What's the difference? You're raising the price of labor, you're saying. The same thing as the minimum wage, but, you guys will always use the argument that works for you, depending on the argument you're trying to make. No,
I never said it was good to not have a minimum wage. I simply said that the corporations are benefiting from the cheap labor. I don't think that's a good thing necessarily.
Well, obviously they are benefiting from the cheap labor because the wages are going down. I was reading a story in California that the concrete and the bricklaying industry, the wages have gone down so low that you're better off working at a McDonald's than going and becoming a bricklayer, from what I understand.
Yeah,
I think
that used to be a good job, a good union job. I'd throw in too.
Okay, yeah. but at the same time, I mean, we've already gotten accustomed to these low wages as far as leveling out our economy. So if we were to solve the illegal immigration problem by somehow exporting these people back to their countries, how would we deal with the economic ramifications of that? That's the scary part about this whole scenario. I think if we do one thing or the other, if we give them amnesty, which I'm completely against because that'll just encourage another influx of immigrants, and in another 20 years we're going to have this problem again, just like we did in the 80s.
Multiplied by 10.
Exactly, and that's one thing about Reagan I didn't like, because he was a social liberal and he gave him amnesty.
Well,
now,
let me ask you guys this. Because, there's a great Penn and Teller show called Bullshit that has an immigration thing. I'll find a link to it and put it in the chat room. I don't understand what the actual problem is. Like, you say there's this problem now, but what's the crisis?
Of what? Immigration?
With illegal immigration.
Well,
what's happening that's so terrible that it needs to be remedied?
It's bringing wages down, and at the same time, it's taking away from American jobs from people that were born here, that fought for this country, and that sort of thing.
I read an article in the American Prospect. It's a left-leaning thing where a farmer in like Virginia set aside 300 of his crop picking jobs for Americans only. There were like 40 applicants, and like 5 guys actually showed up to work, and like 1 guy made it through the season.
Okay, then what we should do is we should just let in more legal immigrants that are coming here law-abiding. There is no problem with immigration, and I'm telling you, my problem is just really technical. These people are here illegally. Every day they are here. They know they're here illegally.
But that's amnesty, right? I mean, if we just say...
No. I think what he's saying, Reasons, is that it's not the fact that they want to come over here. It's the fact that they're just coming over here unknowingly to our government system where they're not accounted for, that sort of thing.
We have laws, and America can decide our immigration policy, and then people have to acknowledge it. People that break it before they're even citizens and then say they want to become American citizens,
Okay, well, I haven't found myself saying this much, but isn't that what George Bush came up with? Like, George Bush came up with an idea for a guest worker, like, you're here temporarily to get work, come on in, and here's your semi-identification, and you're going to pay some taxes, not the full burden or whatever. I mean, that seems like a smart thing to do.
Well, I don't think that. There's 100 million people who willing to come to America. We can have as many workers as we want, but to give people who came here illegally American citizenship, I think is
Nobody's saying citizenship. They're just saying let's get them to pay taxes. That's what Bush is saying. No,
but their taxes. That's irrelevant, because the bottom 50% of American income earners pay only 4% of the taxes to begin with. These people, according to the liberals, are doing jobs Americans don't even want to do. They're not paying anything of the taxes, and they take more than they produce.
Right. So what I'm saying is very simple, that George Bush wants to get them to pay some taxes and to have some way of identifying and tracking these people. We know they're here.
Well, Reasons, wasn't it the liberals that argued that that's a form of indentured servitude, and that's why it was nullified as even an option on the table?
I never heard that argument. I think it's one of the few things that wasn't drawn out along party lines. I think there were people on both sides of the issue that were for it, and both sides of the issue that were against it for different reasons. It's a complicated problem.
What about the issue of the rule of law, and that if America says that this is our immigration policy, and people say, hey, you know what, fuck that, I'm not doing that by law, why? And even companies are hiring people that are not American citizens. The rule of law is what's.
Do you smoke pot?
Why?
Because you're talking about the rule of law like you're somebody's grandfather or something like.
Come on now, come on there, Reasons.
Look, wait, you don't. Yeah.
But I mean, there's a problem, a rule of law problem. Ooh, we got all these people smoking pot and not getting caught enough or whatever. Remember the war on drugs? I mean, it's the same. So what? I mean, it's a problem that needs to be addressed. It's not,
Well, look, I can agree with you on the drug issue to a certain extent, because I think that the war on drugs is just a farce.
I think drugs should be made legal.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I was going to have a show on this next weekend about the war on drugs and the fallacy that it is. Anyway, check it out, 646-652-4869 for everybody who's listening in. We're talking to I Got My Reasons, who has a show here on Blog Talk Radio, and I believe Ozone. Do you have a show as well?
Yes, I do.
So you got 2 people from Blog Talk Radio giving their thoughts. We were talking about earlier George W. Bush and his presidency, and the conversation has evolved into the immigration issue, which has been fascinating, by the way, to both of you fellas, even though I Got My Reasons thinks I'm the great Satan.
I don't think anything of the kind. I talked about your show on my show today.
Well, I appreciate
it. Gave you a hard time.
It doesn't matter whether it's negative or positive. I appreciate it otherwise.
You're smart like that, unlike some of your conservative buddies.
No, well, I like to believe that the conservative movement embraces all ideologies, even though I know that there are some intolerant conservatives. I just believe that that's the fundamental difference between our country and every other country, that we can agree to disagree and have the freedom to do so.
That's very true. Yeah,
now,
so
now
when you stop calling us bedwetters, we'll be all set.
Well, you know, that, of course, you're always going to have your biases reasons. I mean, that's just the way it is. You have people calling us repukes and...
no, I wouldn't do that.
Well, I've heard it enough to...
Yeah.
I've heard it enough to be able to be so upset by it that, you know, I have to throw my pop shots in at the liberal persuasion, if you will.
Mm-hmm. What's with the long hair thing? That's like a 60s throwback.
Well,
Are there people with long hair anymore?
Well, that's what, I mean, it's just a figurative speech because that's exactly what the liberal agenda started from, was from the hippie movement.
Okay, I got you.
So that's why I just said throw that. But I know there's some conservatives with long hair. Ted Nugent, great conservative man.
Covered himself with his own feces to get out of the draft?
He's, well, I don't know about that.
And he's smart. He's a smart conservative.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but he's a conservative, and I know he's got long hair and that sort of thing. Anyway, 646-652-4869. We're talking about immigration now.
I'm going to go. Thanks, you guys.
Oh, you're out of here. Okay, well, thank you for calling in anyway, man.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye.
Now, Ozone, did you agree with anything this man said here about the immigration problem?
He's in a deep denial. He's not willing to. He doesn't understand economics, and he doesn't understand the rule of law. Obviously, he's laughing at me that I'm saying that the rule of law is important.
It is important.
Of course, it's important. It's the difference between the law of the jungle, what's happening in Iraq and in other countries, and what happens here.
Absolutely, and this is what I try to get through to the left side of the political spectrum. That this is why we're at war. Because these people in the Middle East, not all of them, of course, but the radicals, the people that are being subjugated by tyrants that are subjugating them with fundamentalist Islam, they don't separate the spheres of consciousness like that. They don't understand that, okay, I can be an Islam person that believes in the Quran in one sphere of consciousness, but at the same time, in another sphere of consciousness, understand that the rule of law is important to maintain social order. And that's why we're in the Middle East at this point, so we can sow the seeds of democracy and be able to facilitate that in the part of the world that believes that it's okay to kill as many westernized people as possible because the Quran and their tyrants and their ayatollahs and everything else tell them to do so. I mean, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Their rule, they know the rule of law, though. They know how to set down the rule of law. The Taliban knew how to set down the rule of law in Afghanistan. The only difference between us and them when it comes to rule of law is our laws are made by us who elect our elected officials, and their law is made by Osama bin Laden or whoever is in charge.
Yeah, and at the same time, we're not fearing people into abiding by the rule of law. This is a civil society. Right. We're not. We don't have the.
Well, we do. If you break the law, you're going to go to jail. If you steal someone's car, you're going to go to jail. But the laws that are in place are. We vote for them, and we get to choose the officials in the government, so we have some control. We do use force. If you do a crime, police are gonna come and take you.
Well, of course, but we don't live under such authoritarian type rule of law like the Taliban or communist China or that sort of thing. That was my point. Is that there's no fear involved. Sure, there's elements of deterrence, which are jail time, getting arrested, that sort of thing. But I don't believe that the United States rules over its people by fear. Do you agree with that?
No, you're right. No, but we do use fear to enforce our laws. I think, like for example, if you lowered if for murder the maximum penalty was 5 years in jail, the murder rate would quadruple.
And I'm glad you brought up the murder rate. And this is something that a liberal actually brought up to me that I thought had some credence. This is why I try to debate and facilitate conversations, attempt to have civil conversations with liberals. But, you're talking about deterrence, okay? Do you think that life in prison is more of a deterrent than the death penalty, or do you think the death penalty is more of a deterrent than life in prison?
I'd have to say the death penalty sounds pretty scary to me.
Now, and the only reason that I changed, or I'm not really changing my view, because I believe that we should have the death penalty, but, you know, this liberal actually provided me with some documentation and statistics that proves that states with the death penalty actually have higher murder rates than those that don't have the death penalty and have life in prison. Now, what do you think that the correlation is between that?
Well, maybe I really couldn't tell you. Maybe life in prison is more of a deterrent. Maybe that works better. Maybe the areas that had the most crime, they had to put in the death penalty to try to stop it, while the other ones never had a need to put in the death penalty to begin with, and therefore it looks like the ones that have higher crime have a death penalty. But are we sure which one came first?
Yeah, and you know, it's just a very tricky issue because I'm pro death penalty. I think that if you're going to murder somebody, if you're going to, to be honest with you, I think they need to extend the death penalty to people who sleep with the children and that sort of thing. You know, we're having a high epidemic of people that are pedophiles, that are sick, demented people, and these people are getting better treatment than those that are just, you know, have cocaine on them and that sort of thing.
Right.
Now, I think that we need to extend the death penalty to that as well.
Yeah, well, we need to make whatever prison is, we need to make it as uncomfortable as possible. I mean, I want not treat anyone badly, but I think we should be making them work and make it so miserable to be in jail that we don't have to we wouldn't have to use the death penalty. I would prefer that. Like, if you're gonna 10 years, they're gonna show you 20 boulders, and they're gonna tell you gotta move the boulders from one side of the field to the other, and then you gotta move it back, and then you move it, and just make them move it back and forth every day, and make them work, and they'll be in shape. Feed them good, give them a place to sleep, but they'll be so miserable moving those boulders back and forth that they're not gonna want to go to jail. Now they go to jail, they're in their gang, they get food. It's not perfect, but
it's easier to become institutionalized, that sort of thing. We got another caller here from 508 area code.
Yes, greetings.
What's going on?
Well, I was actually going to call and let you know what the fate of the United States was going to be, but it sounds like you're busy talking about prison labor.
No, don't worry about it. Go right ahead, sir. If you have an opinion on it, let's hear it.
Well, I haven't been listening in. I don't know quite where you are, but I think this is a pretty fair assessment of what's going on, okay?
Go ahead.
The United States has been around for, we know, I guess, they landed in 1600, so maybe it's 400 years. Let's call it really a 200-year civilization. And we can go back in our measured history and talk about Napoleon or the Roman Empire or Genghis Khan, for that matter, or even way before that.
Okay.
At the time of the height of the Roman Empire, was it imaginable at all for anybody that the Roman Empire would fall?
Okay.
So right now, as it stands, Americans are so far beyond even having a hint of how easily it could all end.
And how would it end, sir?
Well, I mean, again, when you talk about the whole war topic and you talk about people, I'm not going to specify particular countries because I'm not extremely well-versed on who our enemies and who our friends are. So you have it all coming down to real estate. We've got the better real estate. We've got the promised land. And they're over there more in the desert and more compact in much older cities, and it's just much less desirable lifestyle. And so they want to take over this country. So they're bringing over, their 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds are learning how to kill, and they're being brought up not just it would be good if you learn to kill. That's all they know. You can't change their mind. They're brought up that they hate Americans, just like our kids are brought up that they love to eat and relax, and it's just a whole different breed.
Well, we were actually discussing this earlier, and I think that we're attempting to facilitate a different ideology. I mean, isn't that what we're in, a war of ideology?
Oh, no, you're right on, and that's really what's frightening, is because Americans in the very short term are so spoiled that they think, this country, of course, the United States is strong. I mean, I don't even want to start thinking about what it would be like if the real way to take over this country is to start a civil war here. And it wouldn't take that much if you got into the bio war, and you got into poisoning water supplies, or you got into more of the 9/11 type stuff, where even though a lot of your efforts would get stopped, you can't tell me that they couldn't pull off multiple assassinations of some easy to kill type, public figures, sports people. What would it take to kill a guy on a basketball team that everybody knows about, or a baseball team, but have a lot of those types of kills. There's a lot of groups that have crossed the border. I mean, you read about, a few people got caught. I mean, how many real people are living in the United States that are really all about bringing this country to an end? I mean, if you told me that the United States still existed like it did right now about 200 years from now, I wouldn't believe it.
I think that's what, the current president, that's what we were talking about earlier about the legacy that the president's leaving. I think he was trying to help prevent that sort of thing. That's why he's passed the legislations that he has, and he's being criticized for it by those on the left because they claim that their rights are being violated and that our rights are being taken away from us, and yet I hear them every day, spew their slanderous garbage about our president, and yet I don't see a secret police taking them away and putting them in a gulag, or a secret police taking them away, putting them in a concentration camp. That's basically what we were talking about, and you're talking about how the modern-day person is lazy. I have to tend to agree with that because you have a lot of left-wing liberals here that basically are just kind of facilitating the appetite of having the government provide them with everything. They want, free health care, they want, free education. They're even talking about extending free education into the higher education levels and that sort of thing. What do you think about that, sir?
Well, it's really a separate topic. If you want to talk just particularly about the United States and the model that the economy is presently set up under, it's no wonder that when I say they, I basically mean anybody that's not a citizen as of this moment or this next moment, because it's just going up. I mean, literally, I've read the stats on the illegals crossing the border and what that leads to on the drag on the economy and what that leads to for the crime rate.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, as a matter of fact, and we were trying to figure out a remedy to the immigration problem. We surmise that if we attempt to, and listen, I'm all for trying to assert the rule of law and make these people understand that what they're doing is illegal. But we were talking about the ramifications of possibly sending the 12 or 15 million people that are here illegally back to their countries of origin would have a tremendous economic impact on our economy. Now, how would we remedy that if at the same time remedying the illegal immigration problem?
Well, I don't even think you're going to come close to sending people back. You'll have a civil war before you'll have that. And that's why the country is ultimately going to see its demise, because of all the beautiful things about America and how it gives everybody a chance. That's the reason, because all it takes is one country, let's just pick a country, let's call it X in the Middle East, and that country is the one causing problems or blowing up our buildings, and we could say we should just blow X off the map, but there'll be one fraction of 1% of actual naturalized U.S. citizens that are from X, and they'll say, that's not fair, you can't blow our people up. And so because we're too nice and too fair and letting everyone in, I don't understand. I could do a better job than any presidential candidate on the one topic of let's build a wall. Your buddy that was on the line before I got on the line was talking about them moving the rocks back and forth over the field. How about they move the rocks and build a wall? It's a measurable amount of distance. It's Texas. There's highways that are longer than that.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about that, Ozone?
That sounds good. But really, I think when you ask the question, if we take out the illegal immigrants, our economy is going to suffer. These people consume more than they produce. They want all the social programs because they're doing jobs Americans don't want. So they're consuming more than they're producing, and our economy is worse if we keep them. It's not a question of, we want as many immigrants as we need, and I think we have to start enforcing the law. And if companies are not finding workers to hire, we'll just let in more legal immigrants. Luckily for us, we have 100 million or more, maybe a billion people that are willing to come here to work, and they'll fly tomorrow if we give them a citizenship. And that we're waiting online. We can fill them in.
What do you think about that, caller from 508?
I think he's right on the money there. This Ozone guy sounds like he's got his head on straight.
He's a great conservative. Calls in several times. He's got definitely some insight. But the thing about it just scares me of the possibility of an economic situation, because just like the caller from 508, and what's your name, sir? What can we call you?
I'm the mystery man.
Mystery man? Okay, well, what the mystery man was saying, Americans being lazy, I think that, you know, we've just come accustomed to such cheap labor at this point, because cheap labor equals cheaper products and that sort of thing, that if we attempt to round up these people, or I don't mean to say round up, but attempt to crack down on the illegal immigration problem, that could affect us economically. Now, I understand where you're coming from, Ozone, when you're stating that they consume more than they actually put out, but don't you think that the domino effect, if you attempt to take these people out that are already working in America, and they've brought the wages down so much that if we take them out and try to replace them with American workers at a set wage, don't you think that would have an economic impact? And not only that, don't you think that would lose jobs in the long run? And if not, how so?
Well, you know what? I think that we'd have to do it, and we don't do it all in a day. We start doing it. Companies are going to suffer, and they're breaking the law, and I don't want to see them suffer. I know people that are probably going to suffer, and that's why we'll have to let in legal immigrants, and we can do that while we're deporting illegal ones. We'll bring in legal ones. I think that first thing that will happen is that people will stop coming here illegally when they see we're rounding them up. A lot of people will leave and say, look, I don't want to end up going to jail. I think we should give a time. If we should start enforcing.
Guys, I gotta go. I think my cat jumped in the microwave.
Oh my gosh. Okay, go ahead there, 508. All right. Sorry about that, Ozone. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. What was I saying?
You were talking about illegal immigration and how it won't be that much of an economic curb, only for the companies that employ them.
It will be. It might hurt. It will hurt companies, and it will hurt. People will hurt, but we're going to start cutting our losses, and we can replace the ones that we get rid of. We should also give time. If someone's been working here for a long time and has proof, we can give them 2 years or a year to work, and give time for the employer to find someone else. But they have to go. I mean, if they're migrant workers, okay, so they broke the law, they got in, they got to work for 3-4 years, and now they got to go back. It's people say, oh, they came over the border. They as soon as they come over the border, they have to be here forever. They're stuck. I thought they're migrants, that they're working. This is America. America decides, and I want immigrants because I'm a capitalist. That means lower prices. But the rule of law is key, and if we don't enforce the law, and everyone in the world is going to see that this law has no teeth, they're going to keep coming more and more and more. That's it's the 15 million here are not the problem. It's the 100 million waiting to come. As soon as they hear that the coast is clear, they're not coming because they think that there's a law and you can't come in. But now, if they see that this law has no teeth, it's not the 15 million here that are going to be the problem. It's going to be the 100 million more that are going to come.
I see. Well, you know what, Ozone? It's always a pleasure talking to you, my friend.
Thank you.
And I'm going to be on next Friday at 9 p.m. Central Time. So I would more than be happy for you to give me a call up and discuss the issue that we're going to be discussing then, because you provide excellent insight with substance, and you're a good American, sir.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for the show.
Not a problem, sir. You have yourself a good evening.
You too, sir.
Well, we facilitated some pretty good debate. I know that we were talking about George W. Bush, his presidency, the future. But I think that talking about George W. Bush, the past, what we're doing, where we're going, facilitated some great debate this evening. I'd like to thank all the callers for calling in. No matter what political persuasion you are, I appreciate any kind of political insight. Like I've stated previous, I don't care what side of the political spectrum you sit on. I'd like to facilitate debate. This is America. America's the greatest country on the face of the universe. We have the strongest military on the planet. And as far as America going down anytime soon, I just don't see it. I don't see it because nobody provides the amount of freedom and opportunity and liberty as this country right here. And I just don't see us falling. I know that there's a lot of people on the left that like to make you think that way, but we're not going anywhere, folks. This is a great country, and that's why I live here. That's why I'm proud to say that I'm an American citizen, and that's why I'm proud on every little thing that we do, whether it's here domestically or across the international community, because we are on the side of goodness, we are on the side of freedom, we are on the side of liberty, and that's why no matter what happens in the international community, the United States will always prevail, because we're not like any other social experiment. We're not like any other theoretical social order. We're not like collective communism. We're not like socialism. We're not like any of these other concepts, these old concepts. We're living the future, folks. We're living the end of history. Democracy is the last form of social order. It appeases all the wants and needs of human essence. And I'm glad to be alive at this point. Well, anyway, folks, I got about 4 minutes left on the program. It's been a great program, once again. Had some people call in. Whether they agree with me or disagree with me, it really doesn't matter. I just want to facilitate debate. We had great debate tonight. Talked about the borders. Talked about immigration. Talked about the future of America. Anyway, folks, you can always get at me at blogtalkradio.com/ghost, Ghost. Leave me a message. Let me know what's going on, whether you like me, whether you hate me. Really doesn't matter, just as long as I help you facilitate a debate. And that's what the beautiful part about America is. I mean, that's why I try to be a conservative Republican that wants to hear everybody's side. Now, I know I talk a lot of mumbo-jumbo about long-hair liberal, bedwetting hippies and all this other nonsense, but that's because I'm proud to be a Republican. I'm proud to be a conservative. And I can say it because I have the freedom of speech to do so. It's a great country. And like I said, I'm proud to be an American. Anyway, folks, I'm going to be on here every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Same place, same time. You can get at me, 9 p.m. Central Time. You can hear me right here on Blog Talk Radio. Next week, we're going to be talking about some more issues that affect us all. We're going to get a conservative viewpoint. I'm going to say what conservative Republicans are feeling on certain issues, and we would like people of the left that aren't going to utilize methods of agitation, that aren't going to utilize logical fallacies, personal attacks, and that sort of thing. We'd like for you to call into us. So please bookmark us right now. blogtalkradio.com/ghost, Ghost. Bookmark that page. Like I said, we're going to be on here every weekend, 9 p.m. Central Time. We're going to be talking about the issues, and I embrace anybody of any political persuasion. Hell, if you're an open communist, I mean, give me a call and tell me why you believe communism is great. You know, I mean, I just love facilitating political debate because that's the beautiful part about America. You know, there's some parts of the world, folks, that you can't even talk against your own government. You can't even talk against the people that are running for power. That you either just going to have to grit it and bear it or get your head chopped off or be put in some political prison system. And we should all, as Americans, whether you're on the right side, whether you're on the left side, we should all appreciate the freedoms that all of us take for granted. And we need to realize that no matter what side of the political persuasion we're on, we're all American people. We don't need to be divisive like the left is trying to do, you know, utilize race and gender to separate America. We don't need a separated America. We need a unified America. We need an America that understands that no matter what happens, no matter who's in office, no matter what, we need to do what's best for this country, and we need to help perpetuate its dominance until the end of time. Because we are on the side of liberty, folks, and everybody in the international community knows it. Anyway, folks, I got about a minute left. I'd like to thank everybody who tuned in with me. I'd like to thank the people that are remaining in the chat room. Beverly and Donnell, thank you for listening. Political Vindiction, Ozone, I Got Reasons. Everybody else who's listening, I really appreciate it. I thank you very much. And I hope to see you next time, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 9 p.m. Central. True conservative Republican radio, but I ask you to invite all your friends, everybody you know, tell them to listen in, whether they're left or right of the political persuasion. I want you to call in and debate, because we need these open debates so that we're never going to change each other's minds, but we can learn from each other. And that's a beautiful part about America. Anyway, folks, thank you very much. God bless you all. God bless this country. And until next time, thank you very much.